Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our podcast. I'm Kris, joined by my brothers Adam.
Hello.
And Eric.
Hello.
And we are back in the room once more to give our take on video games. And in this week's episode, we are going to be giving our take on a game that we've been talking a little bit about over the last few weeks. In the last few episodes, we have mentioned a game called Doki Doki Literature Club. And at this point, all three of us have experienced this game. Adam was the last to kind of see what it really is.
See it through.
See it right to the end. So we're going to be discussing that game. But before we do that, we'll also have a few non-spoiler chats too. So do stick around. And then when we get to Doki Doki Literature Club, we will then give a spoiler warning because we won't really be able to talk about what that really is until we give a spoiler warning. Now, if you don't give a shit about the spoilers for Doki Doki and you've been listening to the last few episodes, which Adam believes you shouldn't, if you don't give a fuck and you're like, yeah, I just want to know what the deal is, you could just hear it from us and you can stick around for the spoiler talk. Whereas if you already know or you've already experienced it or whatever, then you can also stick around for the spoiler talk and see what did we think about the whole thing. But we'd also love to know your thoughts on it and everything else that we bring up in this week's episode. So if you're listening to us on audio platforms, make sure to touch base with us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at The Brothers Take. Or if you're watching this on YouTube, then jump down into the comments and give us your take on everything we bring up today, including Doki Doki Literature Club. And if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to give it a thumbs up, hit subscribe, and click that notification bell. But without further ado, let's cue that music and let's talk about Monika.
Only Monika.
Just Monika.
Just Monika.
In fact, that's all we're going to talk about today is just Monika. Before we get into that, a little while back, Adam, you were saying we were talking about Doki Doki Literature Club Plus, and it came out on a few different consoles. One of them was the Nintendo Switch, and then you brought up something very interesting about the Switch, which was shoot.
Oh yes. Recently, the sales numbers has surpassed the PlayStation 3 and the Xbox 360. Nearly 90 million units sold worldwide, and it's only been 4 years.
That is fucking nuts.
Maybe it's the fifth year.
Yeah,
and the both PS3, 360. That's over the course of like maybe 8. I know it's a 7 year. It was 7 years technically that generation, but they continued to sell them for another
of course.
Whatever. So technically like double the amount of time. I thought that was shocking.
Well, it was only in our last episode that I found out just how recent the Switch is. Remember, I thought it'd been out much longer. I thought we were at the end of a Switch cycle. Like that's why I was but that's why I was a little bit disappointed with the OLED because I was like, oh, what's the next Nintendo console? And it's like, dude, it's only been out 4 years. It's mid-cycle. I was like, fuck, I didn't realize that. And the fact that it's reached mid-cycle and has already outsold what I'd say were probably the two most popular consoles in the last 15 years, probably.
Long time, yeah.
Or at least that's what I would have thought until this. This would suggest that the Switch is.
Yeah, well, it still hasn't quite met PS4 numbers because I think that's 115 or 120 million.
Holy shit, I didn't even realize this. Did the PS4 outsell the PS3 and the 360?
Yeah, it did. But that's not as surprising for me just because the Xbox One numbers aren't very high. I think they could be 50 million, I think. I'm not 100% sure what numbers they are.
Yeah, because it was the PS4 pretty much won that one, didn't it?
Yeah, it really left it in the dust. So that's not as surprising just because it's like it's not as even, right?
Right.
Whereas with the 360 and PS3, it's like the numbers are
they were neck and neck.
Yeah. They're within the 80 million.
That was the main console war essentially
for us at least. Yeah, that's like a reignited war, like the Nintendo versus Sega console war. I love that.
I really enjoyed that period and that cycle. Not only were the games great on pretty much both, but it's also the last time I properly played an Xbox. Like I have played the Xbox One, and I had a go at the Xbox Series X, but I mean like actually playing full games and really and making your own profile and really experiencing the console. The 360 was the last Xbox that I really had, and I had no desire for the Xbox One, and maybe many other people felt the same way. Maybe that's why it had the life cycle that it did.
Yeah.
But the Series X feels a lot more like the 360 for some reason, and the PS5 feels a little bit like the PS3. Like it's kind of like, oh, actually, maybe I want both now because I'm reminded of that era a little bit.
Yeah,
they're a little bit more competitive too. They're a little bit more competitive this time around.
Oh, they're way more competitive. I mean, that's what it takes is the underdog, right? With the 360 left the PS3 in the dust for a long time, and the PlayStation was having all kinds of issues, not just with its pricing, but games difficult to develop for. There was the PSN hack. There's so much shit that could have gone wrong. Like even Valve was saying that Sony should just give up and leave the market. That's how fucking bad it was for them. And to see them like kind of come fighting back, but that's what it took. It took Microsoft to be the winner essentially for a long time in order for PlayStation to hit back and deliver and make some great games. And then just the previous generation with the PS4, Xbox has been left in the dust. That's what it takes. Now you have things like Game Pass. Game Pass would not exist if Microsoft didn't lose the last generation, right? All these pro-consumer decisions that they're making wouldn't exist if they were the winning team, essentially. And that's why we don't see all these kind of things coming from PlayStation, because they don't need to, right? But people,
mid-cycle they might have to.
Well, they might have to, yeah.
Fuck.
They might have to.
Fallen behind.
It's like people are saying, oh, that PlayStation needs a Game Pass alternative. It's like, do they, though?
Yeah, I know. I see people say that, and it's like, well...
They don't really.
Like the big exclusives
they
are still
do
on PlayStation.
When they lose to Game Pass, right? If Microsoft wins this generation, essentially, then Sony needs to come out with a Game Pass alternative. But at the moment, they don't need to do that. But it's so interesting seeing that that's the front, right? That's the battlefront, essentially, is PlayStation and Xbox. And here's this... Here's Nintendo.
The sneaky Switch.
Been around since the beginning of the what would be the modern home console generations. Kind of, I suppose, would be the grandfather of them all. And it's 90 million units.
What was it that... who even said this? I think it was you, Adam. Someone said... Was it on this podcast? I listened to so many that I'm not sure. That like there was something that Nintendo invested in anyway, and it didn't matter if they could afford to lose money on it for like the next 30 to 40 years or something, and it wouldn't.
Yeah, well, it was the Wii U.
It was the Wii U. That's what it was. Yeah. And it's just, but it goes to show it's like it might not always seem like they're making money all the time. Like, look how much Nintendo Switches they've actually sold. And it is because they have succeeded at being the family secondary console, but also for some people, they're certainly the primary console. For a lot of kids, they're their primary console. A lot of family homes just have it because it's like, well, it's more aesthetically pleasing. Like my kids want to play video games. I don't want them playing fucking first-person shooters or fighter games on these big kind of more adult consoles. So I'm going to get them to Switch because it's advertised and marketed in a more colorful and appealing way. So, I mean, it makes sense, doesn't it, that they've actually sold a fuckload and
a lot of casual
behind the scenes,
kind of casual gamers, people who even college students who are not wouldn't be into again the first person shooters would get it for things like Animal. Surely about the people I worked with in college.
Yeah, I think Animal Crossing
got Switch for Animal Crossing.
I think Animal Crossing last year just shot the sales through the roof. Because
that's crazy to me.
It became the lockdown machine.
Yeah.
We were just entering lockdown, and Animal Crossing launches with an Animal Crossing Switch.
There's a girl I work with. She spent over like 100 hours, possibly more, probably way more, than 100 hours on Animal Crossing with a Switch.
Because I don't think you can clear it necessarily. I think it's constantly, there's things to do in it all the time. So
Yeah.
it's the perfect machine for just like killing
But
time.
like, yeah, because you're working with your friends as well, and you can
Yeah.
like go over. You can either share resources. I think you can go and raid other people's islands and stuff and take their things. And you're paying taxes and everything. Like, it's a brilliant thing to teach children. This is how life works.
Oh
But
yeah,
in
well
a
look, yeah, and
in a cute way of like doing it.
it's
So,
a fun, harmless game, isn't it?
yeah.
I think the other thing worth noting is that there's never, at least at this point, there is no shortage of Switch consoles. You could pretty much buy one anytime. Like, it's not a case of like,
Yeah, they were short. There was a shortage though, but I think they're after. Yeah, I think that's okay now. Yeah.
you know, but like, you're not gonna be like, for example, I went down to GameStop recently. Just ask about the Series X, which they can't take pre-orders for. They can't take deposits for, anything like that.
Yeah.
And they genuinely don't know when they're getting them. They were like, we don't know. It could come in during the week and it might not. We don't know when they're coming. But like, there's plenty of Switches there. You can pick up a Switch.
Yeah, but in saying that, I actually went down and asked, can you pre-order the Switch OLED model?
Oh, the OLED, yeah.
Nope.
Yes.
Sold out.
Because it's sold out.
Yeah. They
the Switch OLED, which we were saying who's going to buy it.
Yep.
Pre-orders
are sold out for it.
That's
what wrong. I think is so incredible about this number is that like they're going to continue to sell these. Like, why make a Switch Pro if they can continue to sell these things? And they're obviously they're way smarter than fucking any of us in terms of like predicting.
Of course. They're in the business. Yeah. They know what they're doing.
So it's likely that the chip shortages, like, they're probably looking at that going, like, why the fuck make a newer machine that we're not going to be able to sell because we can't meet the demand? And we are currently selling this one like crazy. Let's just refresh it a bit and just continue to sell it.
Well, then we need to officially go back a couple of episodes ago. We talked about the Steam Deck, and I believe I think I posed the question really was should Nintendo be worried about the Steam Deck? I think both these points, the fact that the Switch has sold incredibly well and that the OLED model has been sold out, no, they don't need to worry about the Steam Deck.
I still too think they need to worry.
Why worry though?
Not
because they've already.
I don't think the Switch should be worried. I think Nintendo needs to be worried because the thing I can kind of see a little bit of like the Wii U thing happening again, right? Where people bought the Wii. Obviously, there's, I can't remember how many units is that. So technically, the Wii won that generation because it outsold the 360 and PS3.
I mean, there was one in every house, pretty much.
Exactly, and everyone bought it essentially for Wii Sports, right?
Wii Sports or Mario Kart.
But did anyone actually buy any software on it? I don't really know how many people actually bought more games on it. But everyone bought it definitely for the Wii Sports, and it was cheap enough that you didn't really mind. But as the generation went on, you kind of started to see that this thing is just not as capable as the other two machines. So you start purchasing them ones, and then when the Wii U comes around, it's like, well, I already have a Wii, and I realized that I didn't really play it, so why pick it up?
Yeah, I get you.
So where I think Nintendo need to be a little bit worried is that if, like, with the current Switch, it's fine, right? No one's going to go, and buy 90 million Steam Decks. But here's an emerging product, right? That I don't think Valve's Steam Deck is going to take over the industry, but they're trying to encourage other PC manufacturers to build them.
Yeah.
So there's these other, there could be even a cheaper one by another manufacturer, or there could be even more expensive one, or whatever. There's more choices. I don't think the next Switch is going to be able to compete in terms of raw specs to the new Steam Deck. So it's not the current Switch is in trouble, but it's possible that the next one could be. Whatever.
You mean the Switch OLED?
No, not Switch OLED. Like whatever Nintendo's next machine is, whether it's a Switch 2.
Because I was going to say that I think not that maybe not being worried is the wrong word, right? Like I think like there's no need to get fucking anxious about it, is what I'm trying to say. Like obviously don't shrug your shoulders at the emergence of any new thing, because you should keep your eyes open and see what the way the market responds to it.
Yeah.
But I think the fact that this kind of thing has come mid-cycle for Nintendo could actually help inform them
Well, that's
what
the thing, you
decisions
see,
to make for the next Nintendo thing.
Nintendo is not on the same cycle as everyone else. Generally, Nintendo refreshes their console every 5 years. Right.
So I wasn't far off. They could.
No, you were far off. Like the Wii was 5 years, and then the Wii U came out.
Yeah, but I saw the Wii U as more like a
Extension.
PS4 Pro. That's the way I saw that.
It was a brand new console, but see, that's how everyone saw it. You see, and why it didn't sell, right?
It's probably the naming of it didn't help.
The naming of it didn't help. But the Wii U was their next console, and then 5 years after that, the Switch comes out. The Switch isn't on the same like generation as like the PS4 or the Xbox One. It's not even on the same as the PS5 and the series consoles. It's kind of they're on their own thing. So technically, that's why I think people were expecting a Switch Pro, essentially, like the next one. Because technically, they're on the path like this. We should be expecting the next one now. But it looks as though that they're breaking that model. Yeah,
like I was just going to say, do you not think like the Switch OLED coming out at this point is them saying, we're sticking with the Switch for another 2 years at least. At least, yeah. And then something might come. It's still I'd be interested to see what comes of it. I'm certainly interested that the Switch. I always thought it was doing well, but it's doing a lot better than I even thought or suspected it was doing. So
it could really easily impressive. Within its lifespan, I think it could surpass the Wii in sales.
Yeah. Another topic we were going to touch on this week, I feel like bringing it up anyway, even though based on the way we record, something of this will probably have come out by time this comes out. But I do want to capture kind of a moment in terms of, we were going to touch on Abandoned because the kind of teaser reveal was supposed to take place through its app on August 10th, at 9 p.m. CET.
So it was. So in terms of recording, it was like yesterday for us, essentially.
Yeah, exactly. So like again, by the time this comes out, I would suspect that actual teaser has made its way to the public, and so we might say something here that's null and void or whatever. But because we were going to talk about it, and there was that initial waiting for something to happen, and then obviously it didn't happen. I would like to just touch on that briefly before we get on to the next thing. Did any of us even go into the app and try it out, or
I tried it out just before we started?
I was working all day, yesterday, so I couldn't. I wouldn't have been able to do it whether I wanted to. And the second thing is, I haven't a clue what app you're talking about. Yeah, I mentioned an app. I decided to remain silent the whole time, but I was like, I don't know what these guys are talking about.
Okay. Well, actually, just so you know, then, and then if anyone out there has been, has totally missed this whole thing, it's possible that you have. If you go onto the PS Store and type in Abandoned, there's an app, and you can download it. And
when your phone or onto the console?
On the console.
On the console.
Oh, okay.
That's why people are so like, this is an indie studio. Why are they getting an app to reveal their game? You go into the app and there's a little speech bubble that basically says there's no gameplay going to be on this app. It's just going to be like trailers and reveals, but it will happen in real time using the PS5 hardware. So I wonder, is it like if something is happening on screen, and maybe we will know by the time this is out, but something might happen on screen, and as you're holding the controller, you will actually feel haptic feedback from the trailer. Maybe, or like, I don't know what that means, but I'm just trying to figure out, like, using the PS5 hardware in real time, what else could that be? Apart from things like vibrations and stuff like that. I don't know. But anyway, everyone was waiting for it to kind of drop, and then it didn't. Everyone was kind of checking the Twitter page. They were saying there was technical difficulties. I'm sure by now that's been resolved. Maybe, and whatever that ends up being might end up in our next podcast. But I just saw people go down like another crazy rabbit hole where their theory was Like I swear to God, I've seen people say it's like, oh no, this was it. This was the tease. Like they knew exactly what they're doing. Like they left us abandoned. You know, like they've actually, this is all planned, man. They were never going to actually drop something. This was just to have us feeling a certain thing, and it's going to pay off later on. And so I was like, this whole thing has been wrapped up so like in so many like crazy tinfoil hat theories that it won't matter what it is at the end, will it? Like,
no, this will never live up to the expectations of the.
Gone so far beyond everything.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
It is crazy. I just don't know. Like, this can't end well for those developers. It just can't end well.
No, I think the audience have sort of just hyped this too much.
Since we last talked about it, have any of you seesawed with the possibility that it might be Kojima, or that it might be a property of Kojima's? Have any of you seesawed with that at all? Because I have to be honest, that really got me with that weird blurry tweet image
that looks like Solidus.
That looks like Solidus Snake in the background.
I mean, isn't it the 20th anniversary of MGS2 soon?
Yeah.
I'm saying no. I have not seesawed. If it's Kojima, fucking fantastic. If it's like Silent Hill or Metal Gear Solid, absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
But I have seen what happens to a fan base that relies solely on hope. A lot of the time, it doesn't pay off. So I will.
But do you think they're relying solely on hope, or do you think, like, I mean, these tweets are not necessarily like shots in the dark here? You know what I mean? It begins at S and ends at L, and here's a fucking blurry picture of Solidus Snake. Like, I mean, come on. Do you not think there's a little bit of like it's not like they're just totally reading into it what they want to read into it? It does feel like it's a little bit of
yeah, but there were so many other things that they were looking at that was just them.
Oh yeah, like there's extra stuff adding to it. Yeah, of course, but I felt like there was always some grounding there, like a little bit of grounding you could.
I mean, yeah, people are justified to, they didn't help things like these the devs and the marketing or whatever the fuck. They didn't really help the whole situation, and I don't think people are that mental to be thinking that it's one of those properties. I just can't see it being that, but it has to be something because of this special treatment they're getting. And even Shuhei Yoshida, I can't remember what position he has now at Sony, but he tweeted as well, and he just took a screenshot of the thing where it says coming soon. Is all it says in the banner now. It just says coming soon.
Yeah, check back soon.
Check back soon. Just took a screenshot of that, shared it on Twitter, and he goes, that's all he has. And it's like,
wait, who's he again? He's the
Shuhei. I don't know his position at the moment. I think he's head of indie devs at PlayStation. He used to be head of Worldwide Studios, I believe, which is now
by him doing that gives ammunition to the people who are like, no, this was planned. This is exactly what it was supposed to be. And you're like, what? Like, what is happening?
Yeah.
Again, by the time this episode is out, maybe we will know, and maybe this is
hopefully
redundant conversation.
Considering there was a lot of people pissed off that that nothing was released. Hopefully, there is something that's released before this episode gets released, because that just means they can kind of soften people's blows, and they can be all like, "Oh, it's not Metal Gear Solid or Silent Hill. It's actually Doki Doki Literature Club too."
Well, and actually, before we get on to that, either way, I feel a little bit bad. If this is genuinely an indie developer, right?
Yeah.
Which it very probably is.
Mm-hmm.
And they're genuinely experiencing technical difficulties, and they're trying to do something special and new and trying to be experimental, right?
So
I will be really disappointed in the way people are treating them. Yeah, I just put out a tweet saying, guys, take your time. I hope you sort it soon. It's like they're working remotely or whatever. Like, it's hard to make a game, and if these guys are not the big AAA game developers, then this whole thing is probably really challenging. if they are someone else really big, and this has all been, and this is a big ploy, and they are kind of jerking people around a little bit here, then they've just pissed everyone off, because people actually at this point don't like the way the whole thing is gone.
Yeah.
And they're gonna be like, why are you doing this to us? Like, so either way, there's gonna be like a negative response, and I don't know.
Yeah, because this could just be like, any developer making a horror survival first-person game, let's say, called Abandoned or called something else, whatever. I don't know, maybe I was going to say two words that one started with S, you don't end in an L, but then I couldn't think of a word that ended in an L. Star Paddle or something, or some shit. I don't know, right? But and Sony could have just looked at it and went, this is a really good product. We have this idea for an app. Would you mind
being the tester for it? Yeah, which I kind of thought it would be, yeah.
Like, and that could literally be it. And then this is just a case of like, no, guys, we're not a AAA game. So that sounds like something a AAA game would say. We're like, oh, for crying out loud. This is all that it seems like. So that's why I'm not really seesawing it. I'm not going back on my thinking. I'm just gonna wait and see.
But you are fixed then that it's still it is an indie studio, and it is a brand new
I am open to both.
But
I hope the game.
That's what's like the seesawing thing is like. Have you gone to the possibility that it's something else, or are you fixated on your first initial reaction? That's what seesawing means. Like, have you gone between?
Sure. My seesaw is kind of stuck at level.
Right, fair enough. You haven't come down on either end now at this point.
No. I just hope the game is really good, and I hope that whoever is developing it doesn't get like huge backlash.
Yeah, I don't want that.
They're going to get backlash, but the problem, like, I mean, yeah, you said it. Games are difficult to make. Studios already get backlash. If anything, if this is a huge marketing ploy and they're jostling people off a bit, then they are almost allowing that type of behavior.
Right.
Or encouraging that type of behavior, which is, could really affect other developers going forward. I think it's really irresponsible what they're doing, actually.
Well, that's if it's on purpose. If it's genuine technical difficulties,
it doesn't matter, right? If this is on purpose, it's irresponsible. If it's not on purpose, they've been irresponsible with their marketing.
Right. Okay.
I think they've
with their choice of words and choice of images.
Yeah.
Right. Well, we'll see, and hopefully, again, by the time this is out, hopefully we'll know. And if we don't, or if it still remains cryptic, let us know, guys, either on our social media or down below in the comments if you're watching the YouTube. Let us know where do you stand with all this, or if you have seen it now, are you excited by what it is going forward, or have you lost the whole thing, or have you even been keeping up with this? Is this the first time you've heard of it? And you're like, what the fuck is the blue box thing? There's plenty of videos and things out there about the whole conspiracy. It has been wildly interesting, I must say. I've really kind of enjoyed it as well. But I don't, ultimately, as it's going further and further down the path, I don't want negativity. I don't want this kind of hatred that I feel is boiling, is reaching a boiling point now that it's not a good thing. I don't like that. So we can everyone try be nice. You don't have to buy the thing if you're not interested in. That's the other thing. You can just say, I'm not buying it then. And that will actually, that'll be enough hurt, actually, I suppose, if that's your...
No, instead they'll probably buy it and then they'll make videos of themselves breaking it or something.
Yeah, like that's helpful to anyone. Good idea, guys.
Wasn't that a thing with the
please sense my sarcasm.
Wasn't that a thing with like the PS3 and Xbox 360 as well? People bought them literally just to break it.
Well, even now, like that pisses people off about people buying PS5s and Xbox Series X to drop them out of airplanes and shit for videos. As like just people going, my son desperately wanted one of those for Christmas, and you're buying them and just fucking breaking them. Like, what a waste. But yeah, there's whole channels built on stuff like that.
That's really like, I mean, I'd understand that if it was like it's the end of the cycle, so you don't want it anymore. Oh, look, we blow it up. That would make more sense. But that's also irresponsible.
Just breaking. Yes, but look, you can do what you want with your own stuff, I suppose. It's a two-edged sword, really. But also, come on, stop buying expensive shit and breaking it. Like, what the fuck? That's not nice.
I know.
Someone spent a lot of time on that. Oh man.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's heartbreaking to see shit like that. But also, if there is a good channel out there for that kind of thing, let us know. I don't know. I don't watch any, so I don't know what they're like. Okay, getting on to then our main topic. Still non-spoiler for the moment, so don't worry. If you're someone who doesn't want to know spoilers for Doki Doki, don't worry. Hey, it's a big deal for some people.
How do you how do you talk not spoiler? Oh, the
I've talked about it.
graphics were they exist.
Yeah, the animation's not bad. No, I don't mean. Bear with me. I've already talked about it non-spoiler. Eric, you've already talked about it non-spoiler. So, Adam, we'd like to get your non-spoiler take on the experience now that you've actually experienced it. I go for it, rip it apart, because I feel like that's what's coming.
I wouldn't recommend this game to anyone.
Anyone.
I would just straight up tell them what happens, because I think either way, I like whether you experience it or someone tells you, I think you're just going to get the same shit out of it, right? You're going to get the same kind of, oh, that's interesting, right? Because it is interesting.
Yeah.
It's just, I felt it was painful to get to that interesting part. So I would nearly, I think if someone just told me what happened in it, I probably would have appreciated it a little bit more.
Well, we're sorry, Adam.
Sorry.
The same thing. Sorry. But you see, you wouldn't know because it depends on the person. Because most reviewers who've played it tell people that they need to experience it for themselves and acknowledge that the first few hours are awful and you're gonna have to just get through those awful hours. They're never shy about that. They're like, you are gonna hate the first few hours of this, but you gotta bear with it or whatever.
I think if you're into that type of game, like what the first 3 hours presents itself as, I think this probably would be one of the greatest games you've ever played.
Which you could be. Like, there's plenty of people out there who are into like visual novels or dating sims.
If you're into that shit,
if you're into that,
you're in for a treat.
A wonderful ride. Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Do you get to ride? I'm not sure. But
plenty of teases at it. But whereas if you're into Take a Shot Skyrim, the gameplay here is not that riveting. There's not lots of choices. You're
even
not
if
traveling.
You're into The
You're not
Walking
moving.
Dead, it's not even that interactive.
No. It's more like a comic book that you're reading, maybe, or a manga that you're reading with very, very, very small interactions at points.
It felt like,
very
when
small,
you were a kid,
that's more what it's like.
And there's like those magazines that you get, and there's always like a little plastic toy on the inside of them, and it's just a bunch of like coloring in and stickers and crosswords.
Yes,
it's a lot like that.
But there's only like 4 pages to the magazine, and the rest of it is just and
I think that was probably part of the aesthetic as well. I think the whole thing is supposed to look a bit like, well, it's all colorful and cutesy, and the music is very
and that's
very,
not knocking
very
the dev, because I think the dev did a fantastic job at what he was trying to achieve. Essentially, it's more the genre. I think I'm kind of getting at. It's more that type of game.
Yeah, wouldn't be for you.
No, I don't even know if you classify it as a game.
Actually, that was one of the things we were gonna bring up, wasn't it? It's like, would you class this as a game? Eric said yes the last time that he would.
Okay.
Even if there's a lack of interaction. Do you stand by that, Eric, or has your mind changed? Yeah. Adam, would you class it as a game?
No, I don't think it's a game.
I'm gonna say, ultimately, it is a game, but it certainly won't feel like one until you're about 50% in.
Okay.
So a first appearance, no, and then eventually kind of reveals itself as a game, but even at that, not a hugely interactive or hugely engaging game.
Well, I suppose it depends. Like, okay, how do we define game then?
Oh God. That's a good point. And at this point, like, I suppose at one point it was like, it's a fun thing you do, right? I mean, it's a video game as opposed to a game of, say, cards or something like that. But
Is it
I
a
suppose
video game? Is there any videos in it?
yeah.
Well, no, it's displayed on screen as in
Oh,
its
okay,
format
right.
is in the
Yeah.
it's in the format of video.
So I suppose it's an interactive video. And then at that point, you're like, okay, does that make it a video game? Or like, was Bandersnatch on Netflix? Was that a video game or was that just an interactive show? I don't know.
But then it would come down to when you have Erica. Is the game Erica an interactive
That's right, because they released
movie,
that. Yeah,
or is that a video game? Because
because
that
you
was
bought it on console.
you got it on console, you played it on console, you interacted and made choices, and there's like a whole lot of different endings and stuff like that. But they used real actors the whole time.
I
Oh,
haven't
yeah, and
seen or
and
played it, so I wouldn't know.
well, you see, this is the thing. I would stretch to say I played it. I had a very similar experience to that as I did to Doki Doki, which is that or almost like those adventure books where it's like, if you want the character to go right, turn to page whatever.
That
If
is
you
a
want them to
game.
go to left, turn to page whatever. So that's a game. Therefore, Erica is.
Right.
If Erica is.
But I wouldn't say Doki offers that.
But to complete Doki Doki, you have to interact with it. You have to do certain interactions to actually finish the experience.
I felt the amount of interaction in Doki Doki was like if my lecturer gave me a PowerPoint presentation and I had to just click through the slides and read them. And then near the end of that presentation, I was given an exercise to do that I need to submit it.
Right.
And
Okay.
I wouldn't call it a game.
That's fair enough. Yeah.
That's a fair.
I mean,
I do think a game has to have some form of challenge. Right.
I don't know.
Now,
I
the
found the
level
end
of
quite
challenge, obviously,
I've seen people have to
depends.
look up how to finish it.
I tried to do that. I had to ask Chris.
oh, okay.
So it really,
It tells
I suppose,
you, though. Like,
I
it
know,
tells you
but
in the game.
if you're not paying attention fully, if you're doing the
And if you don't know how Steam works,
right,
I have a fucking clue.
Okay.
you're
I
like,
was-
where are the game files?
Yeah, I went back to desktop and started clicking on that image, right clicking, going into properties and being all like, where the fuck is this shit that people are telling me about? It was only when Chris told me, like, oh no, it's the Steam version. I'm like, oh, I could back out of this and go into Steam.
I think at that we're slowly getting into the spoiler talk. At this point, we know where everyone's at. The last thing I would ask Adam is, did you find any of it disturbing? Because it gives a warning about that.
No, I don't think so. I had a lot of like moments where I'm like kind of had to do like a double take.
Sure.
That's about it though. That was the. Oh no, I did laugh at one point, but that was the extent of my. But it wasn't like a laugh as in this is funny. It was more of a oh my god, I can't believe that happened kind of laugh.
Sure. Yeah.
But that was probably the extent of my.
Okay, so
my
going
horror.
horror. Going forward, then we're going to talk about spoilers for Doki Doki. If at this point you still haven't experienced it yourself, but maybe you agree with Adam, and maybe you're just intrigued enough that you're like, just tell me what it is, then we're going to do that. And if you have experienced it, but you just want to hear our take on what the game really is or what the experience really is, then welcome to discussion. And of course, share your own thoughts either on YouTube down in the comments below if that's where you're watching this, or on our social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at The Brothers Take if you're listening on audio platforms. So I suppose the turning point, this is your last chance, everyone. 3, 2, 1, spoilers. The turning point is, of course, when you go into Sayori's room.
Yeah.
And she's hung. And she's lifeless. There's blood on her fingers. The screen glitches a bit. The music has totally shifted. It's more haunting. Up on the top of the screen, it says something like something is broken or something like that.
Yeah.
Eric, I think that's the point you were talking about last time that left you horrified. So do you want to talk us through your experience of that?
Yeah, I saw that. I then contacted a therapist. I've been seeing them ever since. No, not really.
Yeah.
But I felt like I might have to do that because as far as I was concerned, this was like supposed to be real life. So
in game.
in game, so it's like when playing as Nathan Drake, who moved to Japan when he was a teenager and joined this literature club. Like this was all real for this person. I did not realize that it was what it was.
Right.
So I was thinking from the perspective of a real life person who made the choice to tell their friend who was saying that she had depression, which like a lot of the shit she said was very like that is actually how people with depression do think and how they would describe it. Like,
yeah, I thought that stuff was written and handled particularly well.
Yeah, really well handled. It made her feel quite real. The fact that she had this very common problem. So when I obviously made the choice of, oh no, we're just friends, I'm gonna be a good friend, yeah, because at that time I think that from choices I was getting with Yuri. To then walk in and it's the friend is dead. It was like from a horror perspective was like I again thinking this was real. Holy shit! I just made this person hang themselves.
Right. Yeah.
It's like, is my choices even within this reality? Could my choices of what I say, thinking they could be harmless or helpful, lead to that sort of outcome with someone? So I kind of lost sleep and I had a bit of an anxiety attack in the old heart. So yeah.
Were you thinking then also going forward it's a case of I gotta like change what I said to her, but I might end up hurting someone else then, and that's what the game was going to be, that it's a case of juggling the relationships with the friends, but what you're doing is actually potentially harmful to each of these girls.
Yeah, because again, going back on what I was saying when I first started it, I think we did like initial reaction of it.
Yeah.
My first reaction was it a case of getting one guy, four girls, like, and then turning it on its head and going, well, actually, that doesn't happen in reality. If you're growing up, you have to choose one person. If you try going for all of them, you're probably gonna fucking get stabbed or some shit, like, or they're gonna start turning on each other.
So like some twisted sexual fantasy or something.
Yeah, something like that, or getting a fantasy and making it horrific. So that was kind of the idea. What made it very horrific. It was after Sayori that I kind of go, that I find actually less horrifying. It was just that initial reaction to the initial hanging because of how realistic that is and how realistic they handled it.
Right.
Is what made it horrific for me.
Yeah. Did you try and load game?
No, you told me not to. You told me
I told you to. But you were like, oh, I'll do it tomorrow or something like that.
Well, I clicked load game. I did see my file, but then I kind of went no, and you told me to click on the symbols, and the symbols were intriguing me. And
you should have just tried load game. The interesting thing is if you try load game to go before that to make a different choice, it says this save file is now gone.
All right, okay.
That would have been your first clue. You're like, wait, what? You know what I mean? As well as the glitchy menu and the weird new game thing, which is where the game really starts. This is where the thing really begins, as people say. Adam, was this the scene of Sayori hanging? Was that where you had your maniacal laughter? You crazy motherfucker!
No.
It wasn't.
No.
Was it with Yuri?
It was with Yuri.
Yeah,
when Yuri stabs herself, which is the other kind of brutal killing, I suppose, in the game.
I don't know. I can't remember whether it was not her stabbing herself. It was
it her cutting herself?
Her cutting herself on around the corner. That's where it was just like the reason I was laughing was just like I was like, this is fucking ridiculous. Like it's just getting like it's. I felt that it. I don't know if it did actually handle depression too well. Actually, I think it kind of pushed it into almost like superhero level fantasy.
Sure.
Where I just thought it wasn't that approachable or that realistic. And when the Sayori hung herself, I thought that was obvious, right? I could see where that was going based on the conversation that was had. And I feel like the responses I would have given in reality wouldn't have been that, because I could see where this was going, and I would have been way more cautious about what to say.
but you weren't allowed to have those choices.
No, I wasn't allowed to have those choices. So like when that happened, it wasn't that shocking. It was just like that's the game.
No, but like even if in like the actual game you should have those choices, Monica's not going to let you have those choices.
No, I know that. Yeah.
This is where I get fascinated by the whole thing because at every point where I'm like, it's a bit stupid, or you don't have enough choice, and I'm like, but because Monica doesn't want you to have any choices, and I'm like, I really like the Monica thing. I have to say, I think that's where the whole thing gets really interesting for me, and especially at points where it's like, hey, choose one of us, and you go to choose one of the other girls, and your mouse drags down, and you go, what the
bit. That bit was
fuck?
fun.
And you're like dragging, and it keeps dragging down. You're like, stop it! And you're dragging, it keeps dragging down.
I thought that was funny.
If you successfully, like there is a bit of tongue in cheek in there. If you successfully click one of the other ones, and then the screen kind of glitches out, and then it's Monica only.
Yeah.
So you have to pick her, and then once you pick her, it goes back to normal. It's like, yay, you picked me, and you're like, I didn't. What the fuck? What are you doing?
Yeah.
That's kind of like, I kind of like the moment where like, where Natsuki and Yuri are having an argument, but because Sayori isn't there to intervene, their argument keeps going. Then you have to like click on someone's side, and you keep clicking, and then zooms. You click and zooms, click again, zooms, click and zooms, and then it's just click one final time. It's just like Monica's face just right there on the screen, and I was like, okay, we'll go out of the room. It's like, what the fuck's going on?
Yeah, I see. I find all that really, really interesting, and when every time the music glitches, or every time any little glitches happen on screen, and then it tries to go back to normal again, which I suppose the desired effect is, what the fuck was that? And the game is just like, no, keep playing, it's fine, everything's okay, it's good, everything's fine. But you're like, no, I just saw, no, hold on a second, what was that all about?
I was actually expecting every so often while playing through it after Sayori died to see, like, I kept looking at the background while I was talking to whoever, like I was talking to, expecting to see like Sayori's face like come up against the glass or something, her dead face, or to see a glitch of her hanging in the background.
Like you'd be haunted by her or something.
Yeah, I was expecting that. But I kind of thought would have been quite nicely disturbing.
It would have been, but I suppose at the same time, because she'd been deleted.
Yeah.
She couldn't, and then every time they try to say her name, it's just replaced with fucking symbols and shit. I just think that whole thing is really fucking interesting.
The character becoming self-aware is it was a really neat way of trying it.
Yeah, but in a dating sim, where it's like, isn't this the most boring game you could possibly play? What if one of the girls who you can't fall in love with is the one that becomes self-aware and then wants to kill the rest of them?
I seriously think they could have gotten to that way sooner, though. I don't think it needed that 3
very
hours
long build-up
of normal kind of dating sim style game to get there. Because it did get to a point where I was losing patience, and I kind of was just skim reading and like almost trying to burst through it just to get to the good bit, I guess.
Yeah.
Whereas if it happened within like the first hour, I would have been hooked, I think.
Yeah, I think that's a fair criticism, because I think they could have still achieved the desired effect after an hour of that.
Yep.
Where like you really have a gist of who the characters are, you have a gist of the style of game that it is supposed to be, or the path that the game is supposed to be on before it gets, changed and warped.
Yeah.
I was saying before to you guys that in starting it myself, but knowing what it's about, that there was little clues and hints that I've seen. And it's after the first time you've been to the literature club, you've met the girls for the first time, and they all write poems, and you get to read their poems. And it's Monica's poem. The first poem you ever read by Monika is particularly interesting. It talks about a hole in the wall and being able to see him and being finally awake, or something like that. And so it's that night when her character went home or whatever, was the night she became self-aware, and she saw you, the player, not you, the character. So I think that's really it. And ever since then, she's been like in love with you, and she wants just you and her. I just think that's really
that's cool.
And interesting.
It's a good role for the one character that doesn't get any kind of say in the game. She isn't an option.
No.
So I think that's
she doesn't have a.
It's good motivation for the AI, I think.
Yeah, she doesn't have a storyline, I suppose. And I suppose the thing is, like, the game is set up that it's going to have multiple endings. And I think she does say something along the lines of, like, the game wouldn't give me an ending, so I wrote myself one.
Mm-hmm.
And stuff like that. I think that's really, really fucking cool.
I think it does ask a lot from the player, though, by the way you clear it.
In terms of what?
In terms of accessing the game files.
Yeah.
Like, not I like. That's why I said to Eric, we went to the cinema and I was like, we talked about it briefly, and I was saying to Eric that I was really surprised he cleared it as quick as he did, because I know he's not as like kind of computer savvy, so to be able to go through that, I was expecting that to really stump him, if I'm gonna be honest.
And I think it's designed to. I've seen some people have played chess with Monika on their computer, and some people have kept Monika there for months. And they go in, and she's like, "So how are you now?" and all this kind of stuff. And it's just like,
so it goes on. It goes on forever.
Well, she just stays there until you delete her, like.
Yeah.
But I this is the spoiler talk, so.
Yeah, that's how you defeat her. By the way, you have to delete her.
And she's wonderful, by the way. Monika's wonderful. You can't say a bad thing about her, really. She's great.
No, there's nothing wrong with making one of your. She does.
She does. Yeah. And then she sings you a song.
Sings you a song.
Yeah. She's the only bit of voice acting.
I thought that was really interesting. Is that by the end of the game, then the game just deletes itself. So the only way you can play it again is to reinstall it.
Yeah, you see, I think that kind of stuff is like, the guy has clearly done some really interesting shit in terms of a concept. And I think you're right. The biggest problem is the very long build-up.
Intro.
Yeah, I'd be really interested to see what his next game is.
That's the thing.
It's clearly not going to be something like this, because it's done, right? You can't do a second one of this.
No.
So whatever he plans on doing next, I think he's a guy to keep an eye out on, because I think he has not that it's like huge potential, because he's clearly doing okay with this one, but I feel like he has more in him, to do different types of games, rather than just these kind of clicky novels.
Yeah, I would imagine he's an innovator. I would imagine that he wouldn't be interested in doing the same thing twice.
No.
Do you know what I mean? Like, previous to this, he made some complicated level on, Mario Maker or whatever. That got him kind of known a bit. But that's a platformer game. So he played with what he had, and he got the most out of what he could do. Then he used this app thing to make this. Can't remember what it was called. And he touched base with two artists to help him out with some of the artwork. And he got the most he could out of that, in terms of, like, what can I make it do? How much movement can I actually get out of it? I could do glitches to make this interesting. I can do my own music and fuck around with the music and use that. You know what I mean? He got as much interesting as he could out of that thing. So whatever he goes on to next, I do feel like he's interested in, like, what can I get out of what I'm playing with? And that, to me, is
actually behind Abandoned.
Oh shit. Oh shit.
I'd be interested to see what the console version is then, because, like, you can't exactly go into a console's files and delete characters from the game.
Yeah, I'm curious as to how they
must
how they do that.
They must have, like, an in-game kind of interface, like a mock interface nearly.
Yeah, possibly. What did Monika call you guys? I'm just talking to you.
My name.
Yeah, same.
Like, was your character was called Adam?
Yeah.
But do you have, like, a stream name or like a Steam name, I should say?
I do. But
did she use that?
No.
Okay. So this is why a lot of streamers have gotten a lot of interesting shit out of this.
Okay.
When people are streaming the game, so say I was streaming, right? Ludo Kris might be my stream name, but Kris is the name of the character. At that moment when she's talking to you, in the floaty classroom or whatever, she would say to you, I'm talking to you, by the way. Not you, Kris. You, Ludo Kris. right? Which you've never typed in at any point. So if you're streaming it, it reads your stream name and then feeds it back to you. And that usually freaks a lot of people out. And then she goes, oh, you're recording me, aren't you? How is everyone? Hi guys, it's me, Monika. And she starts talking to the audience then if you are streaming it. But so she has like optional dialogue depending on certain things that you're doing with the game. And I think that's also very, very interesting. I think she tries to do a jump scare too.
This is, I suppose that, like, it's a pity it's in this game. But it's you know, when's the last time you got that kind of fourth wall breaking?
Well, I always think of Kojima. It's why at one point we were talking about Kojima, and I was like, it's funny as mention him because I was thinking about all this Monika shit before. But it probably is. That probably is the last, or like PT kind of stuff is probably like the last time that there was any kind of experience like this. Adam, you've said that you wouldn't actually recommend this to anyone to play it. They should maybe just like listen to this.
Yeah.
But Eric, would you recommend it to people? Do you think they should experience it for themselves?
I have recommended it to someone.
Okay.
But he is into anime anyway.
Yeah.
And he is an introvert as well, so I kind of thought it would work well for him. But I did ask him, do you get disturbed easily? Because I am like warning him that it does get disturbed. But yeah, see, it would depend on who I'm talking to. Because I know another guy has PC, plays Steam, and I wouldn't recommend it to him. Like, I think most people I know who have like PCs and stuff, I wouldn't recommend to.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that this isn't like universally for everyone.
No,
but I do think some people.
I was really shocked by the ratings of it.
Right? Do you think it's rated too high?
Definitely, yeah. You know,
do you think a lot of them at the beginning though, like people are like, "Oh, free game, I'll try it out," and I go, "Oh, this is kind of fun and quirky. See it out," and then what the fuck? And then they get to the end of it and they go, "Holy shit, that was way more mind bending than I was expecting for some free dating sim."
Maybe, but even at that, like even after going through that, and you know, I did think it was really, really interesting concept, and how you go about clearing it, I thought was something I haven't experienced before. I thought that was really, really innovative and interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I still wouldn't rate it that high, and I still wouldn't recommend it to anyone. So I'm
to anyone.
So I'm wondering, like, who's rating it? You know, is that a good representation of the actual, like, or is it just people who would be into that type of game are the only people who've rated it?
Possibly. Well,
that's why I'm surprised, like, because you never see that type of rating for anything.
Yeah. Do you go in and rate something unless you are passionately one way or the other about it, or do you just like leave it? Do you know what I mean? Like go in and physically do something. So unless you love something or you fucking hate something, do you actually go out of your way to go in and rate anything?
Games, probably not actually. Well, I think if I was on Steam more often, I probably would, because I think Steam actually offers a good way of like kind of leaving a review and rating.
Being like a community and stuff.
But on PlayStation, like, how do you even rate a game other than just giving it a thumbs up? How do you actually rate a game on PlayStation?
Well, like, you know, like what people were doing with The Last of Us, where they'd go in on
yeah, you see,
what was it on? You leave a review or...
Yeah, you see, I just don't think there's a like on IMDb, for example, for films, I do actually rate nearly every film I watch. So, you know, I've even if it's like a 6 or a 7 or whatever, I do go in and leave those star ratings. But there just isn't really an aggregated platform like that for games, I feel. So I do leave those reviews on games on IMDb. But I don't think that's the right platform for game reviews, really. So
no, probably not.
I just don't think there is one. Like on Steam, you can rate. Well, I'm just surprised that there isn't a more balanced review for this game.
Eric, do you think this game is rated too high?
What is it? Always just is it just 5 out of 5 for all the ratings? Is it?
It's brilliant. Yeah, it's overwhelmingly positive.
Yep.
Oh, I would not describe the game that way. I did not come out of that with a positive mindset. Yes, even though I really enjoyed the game and actually was slightly tempted to play the game again. I'm not gonna lie. I actually
Oh, there
really
you
like the
go.
game.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would reckon that does seem a bit too kind of
That's 9,000 reviews, by the way.
yeah. So if you have 9,000 reviews and they're all saying that it's overwhelmingly positively fresh,
I think it was 9,000.
no rotten tomatoes here
Or
with
was it
this
900?
one, it's still a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it does seem a bit like are they rating it that high because they knew what the game was and they're just saying it's that high because everyone else is and they want to be that one person that says it's not good, or are they saying it's that high because that is exactly the game they wanted, or is there a level of biasness to it? Because if it's 900 or 9,000, it's still a lot of reviews that it's not that balanced.
I feel like there's a general internet community around this particular game that feels like, and we might not resonate with it. Some of us might, but some of us might not. But that the general consensus is that everyone should experience this. Not everyone should play this. Everyone should experience this because they're just thinking this, like the whole twist and the way it plays out. It's like, it's fucking mind blowing. Everyone needs to experience this. So as far as they're concerned, it's like, I need to rate it high. People need to see how highly I rate it. I have only positive things to say about it. You
Get
need
it
to
on
try
all the things.
Yeah, you need to play this game. And if someone goes, what's it about? It's like, it's a dating sim. I'm not telling you anymore. You have to trust me and play it because they just want people to experience that side of it that it comes to later on. I also wonder, you see, this is the thing. The game had to put in a hook, right? How many people would have gotten to the messed up shit if it didn't have that warning at the beginning? But by having the warning at the beginning, do you set yourself up for expecting something different to what you get? I'm curious about that.
Yeah, it is a bit. It does go to fucking 11, doesn't it? Like, not just in terms of the violence, but even the language that's used at certain parts. It's a bit, and some of the things they say. Like, I ended up screenshotting some of them because I sent them to Paige, and I was like, this is how it has become now. And it's like Yuri talking about what she does to herself with your pen and stuff. And it's like, fucking hell. It gets pretty
rough.
Pretty rough. So I think you could maybe expect that type of stuff from that warning. Maybe not the depressive self-harm, but perhaps kind of violent, questionable sexual stuff maybe from that message.
Yeah, disturbing.
Maybe.
Yeah, if you're disturbed easily. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I would be interested to see how many people, because I did the options. I did also romance or try to romance Yuri.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, so I'm interested in how many people actually did that, and my reasoning for it. What would be your reasoning for romancing Yuri?
Yeah, well, I think it was interesting because I suppose it was just like your most interactive part of this game is picking some words while a nice little beat. To be honest, I was just jamming to the beat. To be honest, I was like, "That's a cool song, bro. I like your music." But I was, it's a fucking cool song. There's cool synths in there. So I was like picking words that I liked. Essentially, I was like, I like that word. It's like kittens as a word, like I like real kittens, but kittens as a word is not as interesting to me as like void and emptiness. Those are cool, dark, kind of broody words. I like those kind of words. So I suppose in the beginning I was picking those kind of words because I was like, those are cool words. If I was writing a poem, I'd rather see that in a word than fluff and cotton and candy floss. Like I wouldn't like a poem like that at all.
Yeah.
And those are the words that Yuri reacts to. So in that sense, you're automatically kind of
drawn to.
You're drawn. So it wasn't, I wasn't playing it like trying to get Yuri.
No,
I was just picking the words that I thought looked cool.
Yeah.
And then that meant Yuri. But I don't know about you guys.
Well, I didn't pick the empty and void ones because I was like, they're too depressing and dark. I'm not going with them. I went with things like
disastrous and lonely.
Apocalyptic. No, adventure or the stars or something that's quite out of body or out of world experience or something like that. Some grand and amazing starscape and kind of quite, can be quite metaphorical, I suppose, with it. Kind of like empty and void, but not as depressing. And Yuri went with them as well because they were very fantastical words in a fantastical setting in the poem. So Yuri went with that. So I was like, okay, Yuri's responding quite well to that. And then other words I chose, so Yuri responded quite well, but most of them was Yuri. So I was like, okay, well, I'll stick with Yuri. And Yuri had that kind of shy, like, sense to her. So I was like, okay, well, I'll stick with Yuri because Sayori was my friend or the character's friend or whichever. So it's like, nah, boy, like, that's like brother sister thing. We're not getting into that category of filmmaking. So, and then you had Natsuki, who was just being a little fucking bitch. Not her.
Yeah, I didn't quite understand how the romancing system worked until maybe the second or third time you're kind of doing the poems.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
But when I did figure it out, I was like doing everything in my power to make sure that it's Yuri. And my reasoning for it was because Nasuki just looked incredibly. Now they're all underage, but Nasuki was incredibly underage in whatever fucking way this goes.
Right, you were like, I don't know where this is gonna go, but I don't want it to get too fucking weird.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Because you already know at the beginning that there's a disturbance warning. So you're like, this could go anywhere, and I don't want to fucking
protect her innocence.
Yeah, come on. You're stay young, will you? Jesus. Yeah, the whole thing is fucking strange. It's a strange game. It's interesting. Like, a lot of people have actually resonated with a lot of the. I've seen that on the online community. A lot of people have resonated with a lot of the stuff that's written in the game. And for some people, that is the side of things that maybe they find disturbing. Is that some of the stuff they're like, I've either experienced that myself, or I know people who have gone through these kinds of feelings or things. And in that sense, it was touching on something that's scary in a very real way before it gets to the kind of more supernatural kind of scary thing of the evil AI that is Monika. Monika needs to be, you know what? I want to add her to list of very interesting video game villains. Whether this is a video game or not, I think Monica's a fucking because she's so like, I'm the president and I want things my way, and like she's like a spoiled brat who's like, I don't like the way this is working out, so I'm manipulating the code and killing all my friends till you're living with just me forever. I think she's kind of scary.
Would you put her on your Suicide Squad? Remember we did an episode of getting video game characters together?
Hell no, but she's probably who they're trying to kill. No, she's more villainous. She's like omnipotent. Like, she can control the entirety of the digital game.
Gladys of it, isn't it? Like from Portal, that kind of
like that. But I also think of like the Matrix or something, and the AI who
there's a lot
self-aware, and you know what I mean.
It'd be kind of cool to see him do an interactive Matrix kind of story or something, wouldn't it?
That'd be pretty fucking cool, actually.
It would fit. It would work. Yeah, I definitely got a lot of that out of it.
That's the shit that interested me the most, to be honest, was that kind of weird shit, and like just thinking about the concept of, as if those first boring 3 hours are the game that you bought or that you got for free that you went to play. That's supposed to be the game. And then the villain fucks with your game and fucks it up. And that's not supposed to be the game, but they've totally ruined it. They've totally destroyed it for you. And they're just trying to get out of the screen and get you. They're out for you until the whole thing needs to be deleted forever. And I do, like you were saying earlier, like, that's such a cool thing that you have to re-download the game if you want to play it again, because it actually Monika deletes it.
Yeah, it
from your
itself.
Computer.
Yeah,
like
it's still
really
it's still
cool.
there. It's just that so many of the files and packages are deleted that the game can't run. So, that is interesting.
What was your reaction, actually, both of you, to when Sayori is gone, and it's the first time you get back to the main menu again with those weird symbols for new game, and Sayori, where she used to be, has been replaced by this amalgamation of the other 3 girls.
Was she?
Yeah. She's okay. So there's an image there.
Now.
Yeah, there's an image where the 4 girls are supposed to pop up.
Yeah,
and where Sayori normally is, she's now just a mashup of the other 3 girls, because the game knows that Sayori's supposed to be there, but hasn't got the Sayori character file to put her there. So it's just using assets from the other characters
I
to
didn't
fill
know
in
that-
the void.
For me, that didn't happen for me actually.
It must have. It has to happen.
No,
That's-
for me, Sayori's just wasn't there. Like, it was just the character was missing, and that's how I knew that if I click on this like weird jumbled up text, that it is something different. It's something new that's going to happen.
Well, that's fucking interesting.
Because
I've never seen that.
it was just these 3 girls now rather than the 4 girls. Or the
Yeah,
characters
because
now
that
gone.
happens. That happens again at the very end
Unless
when Monika's deleted, and you get the other 3.
Unless it did, but I just didn't recognize. But I had that's how, like, it was very clear to me that if I click essentially continue, whatever it says, that it is going to be playing
Something
the game
different.
essentially without that character in it.
The only other thing I kind of want to get your takes on, because I do think that, like, the whole conversation of is this a game, what is it, is interesting, but it's been classed as psychological horror. Is that fair? Is it psychological horror? Eric, I gotta come to you first.
I would say yes.
Yeah, okay. Give us.
Psychological horror again. You're dealing with Sayori has depression and she hangs herself, and then when you meet Yori, she goes like psycho possessive over you and starts cutting herself and everything like that. Which are 2 very real problems.
It can
That
be
even-
for people, sure.
They're real. They can be real problems, especially like quite common in young people. More so the cutting and the being very possessive. More so the hanging themselves. But depression is a huge problem. It's rampant throughout many people of all ages.
So you found that to be the scary thing, though, and not the like crazy glitches and weird kind of glitch outs and shit. You found more like the content of like mental illness and depression. You found that shit scary.
Well, yeah, because that's what I said at the start of this conversation. When you first see Sayori hanging herself, and I wasn't aware that this was a game. Like that, the content of all this was a game, and these were video game characters. Again, I was thinking this was like reality, and the real idea of someone seeing their best friend fucking hanging from the ceiling.
Yeah.
Is incredibly disturbing. Especially again, they were like what? They're all supposed to be like 16 or something. They're all supposed to be teenagers.
Yeah.
Or whatever. So yeah, it was that side of it that I thought was really disturbing. So when it got to like the stuff where it's like Yori's had cut herself and then she's talking to you and her eyes are all fucking crazy wide, and then as she's talking you get to start to see Monika come through the screen.
I love that.
like that's really good. And that's when you start to go, okay, Monika's fucking there's something going on here now. Monika,
I'm sus about Monika.
Yeah.
I think Monika's the imposter here.
Yeah, I was about to say that. Yeah. So that stuff, no, not so much.
Okay, cool.
I can sleep fine with that, and giant baby fetuses chase me down a hallway. But fuck me, everything else, no.
Yeah, cool. Okay, Adam, then, would you class this as a psychological horror?
I don't know. Like psychological, like can't even think of a psychological horror game. Maybe Layers of Fear is the psychological horror to me.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, definitely. I would agree with that.
So I don't know if this is like kind of this. It's not the same level. Like I didn't find this scary. I found it interesting, and there's some stuff in it which I found really. What's kind of weird with it is that like the language that's used is more disturbing than the content of the game at certain points.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
And
this goes to show that people are totally fucking different when it comes to this stuff.
Well, it's just what she ends up saying is so out of character that it's like, what the it's almost like you're possessed or something, right? It's like the way she's talking. It's almost like The Exorcist, when she's like saying shit to the priest and stuff. It was almost like that kind of dialogue. But then when it's revealed of what happens, I just find that was more interesting than it was scary. The hanging was certainly a really disturbing image. The cutting and the stabbing were really disturbing images. But I don't know if I would classify that as a psychological horror, because it's not happening to you. And
I get
the
you.
Characters, and then when it gets revealed that they were essentially pushed towards that, I felt that kind of undermined their kind of feelings or depression or whatever. It's like as if they were written off to do that nearly.
Right, okay.
Whereas if it was you causing them to do that, that's a psychological horror in my eyes.
Which is what Eric was afraid of that it was doing.
Exactly, yeah. If it was that, then I would say it's psychological horror. But it's more of a sci-fi horror, I think.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to go with, I think it is a psychological horror. Certainly not on the same level as Layers of Fear, right? Like, it's not jump scary or anything like that. You're not going to get like, you're not going to turn a corner and be like, I don't want to open this door. I don't know what's going to come out. It's not like that, right? But I think there is an element of it's messing with your head. And there is some disturbing imagery in there, I suppose. So in that sense, it's certainly not, it's certainly not action adventure or comedy or any of these genres. So I think it falls lightly on the horror side, but I do think there's a psychological element to it, particularly when, you see, for me, the whole thing was, and I suppose, my initial experience of it was different to you guys because it was actually watching a stream of it. I don't know if I did myself a disservice, but ultimately I was watching a group of people who were like, for example, them trying to click the name and then their mouse dragging fucked with them big time. And as a result, I was like, oh, that is fucking weird. Because they were like, what the fuck is wrong with my computer? You know what I mean? And the whole thing was like, it's messing with them, the gamers, not necessarily your character. In most horror games, your character is in a scary situation, and then because you have to do it, you resonate with that fear. Yeah. But in this case, it was actually Monika is not fucking with the character. Monika is fucking with you, the gamer. And so in that sense, it was a little bit psychological, where it's like what? Why does my game keep glitching out? Why is the game freaking out? Why is that character gone? Why are these what the fuck is going on with this game? And I did say before that I found myself like staying up late at night thinking about it. It wasn't actually that I was like scared of the game. I just couldn't get the concept out of my head. I was just like, that's fucking crazy that it was the lamest fucking game ever. Right? Realistically, it was the lamest idea for a game ever. And then turned completely on its head into one of the most interesting concepts ever. That if that concept was in a game with more amazing gameplay, I would be right up there with the crazy reviews, because the concept is fucking solid.
Well, it's almost
stuck
like
in my head.
It's almost like the Arkham Asylum, but like pushed further.
Right, yeah,
it's a lot like that. Yeah,
it is.
So first it's Bruce Wayne's fear, then it's Batman's fear, and then it's the gamer's fear that the whole thing crashes and you have to start the game again. God, the amount of people who turned off their fucking consoles to reload that because game crashed. So it's kind of like that, but then they kind of push it further because that becomes the rest of the game where it starts to affect.
That's a good bombshell that you dropped there. Actually, I think that's a really good comparison of what the game kind of is. It's that Scarecrow moment for the second 50% of the game. The first 50% of the game is something you don't want to play.
50% though? For me, it was like,
I don't know. I don't know what is the exact breakup. I don't know.
Well, I felt I was definitely
thought it would have been 60%.
It took me 6 hours to clear, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And it was easily maybe 4 hours maybe before I had to click the go again button, I'd say.
Okay, so maybe it leans more the other direction.
That's why I think like the front end of it is so long.
It's too long.
Yeah,
okay.
It's too. I think that's the fairest criticism that can be made about this particular experience, is that the build up, although I think a build up is necessary to achieve the result that he's trying to achieve. Yeah, I would agree that the build up is too long.
Those characters and what their poetry looks like,
and what the game is supposed to be before it breaks.
Because don't you do it like 3 times before Sayori hangs herself? You do 3 poems.
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
So like they could have really just done like 2. I think 2 would be fine. That the third one was.
You could do the 3, but you could probably do them like you probably get through it like much quicker. Like it kind of does.
There's a lot of dialogue between.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that happen in between in terms of
Especially,
it's like I walk home with you and then we're discussing when we're walking home and then it's the next day and we meet up again and we go back in and then there's I'm going to talk to Yuri and we're going to read a book together. She recommends a book to me and then we like read it together. I'm flicking it and stuff like there's a lot of like we could definitely sum most of this shit up.
Did any of us think that because you knew it was going to be somewhat of a horror game in some respects, did any of you think early on that Yuri's book had something to do with it? Because she was talking about, like the book itself was about like some kind of experiments and stuff done on people. She was reading a horror book. I think it was The Eye of something was the name of the book or something. And I was
I had so many theories. So I had the book was a theory.
Yeah.
I had the theory of, again, was this going to be something like it going to become Misery or something?
Yeah.
Like they're all like the girls are going to turn on themselves or they're going to even start like torturing you or something to make
it kind of is.
Yeah. But like to actually like, they start doing something to try get an answer out of you. It's like, which one do you like more? And they're fucking all like, so that was a theory in my head. Then there was like, is fucking Monica's piano playing? Is that affecting us or something like that? Like, is she doing some weird like
you're not the first person to say that.
Yeah, but was she doing some weird seance thing or something?
Yeah.
Was she like, and then another thing that came to head was, has the main character deleted Sayori from his memory and is just pretending she doesn't exist anymore
in a coping mechanism?
Yeah, in like this person's actually crazy and he's kind of going to end up killing everyone off just so he could be with Monika. So it's actually almost the other way around.
You're thinking like maybe the player character is like a psychopath.
Yeah, kind of something like that. Or even, was it a coping mechanism and he just deleted her from memory? And it's like, no, she doesn't exist. Nope, moving on.
And that's another cool theory. Adam, did you have any like theories leading up, or were you just like I don't have any thoughts?
I kind of felt Yuri was a bit fucked up, and that was about it.
Yeah.
That was the only one where I was like,
I feel like she's the misdirection on purpose. She's given the darker hair. Maybe. She's into horror. She keeps talking about the creepy book. Yeah. She's because you know that it's going to turn into a horror, but there's no hints of it, and she's the one that says she really likes horror. I do think she's kind of a red herring in a way where you're like, I'm kind of weary of her. And also
talks about the knife as well.
I feel like
up shit, doesn't she?
She does. And most people I've seemed to notice, I think most people end up romancing her first. And therefore the game seems naturally inclined that it heads you towards her. And maybe then you're thinking, oh fuck, like this is heading me with the wrong person. And you never think until later on, obviously it becomes very clear. Certainly at the beginning, you're not thinking, Monika, she's the monster. You know what I mean? Like that's not
the only one with
your first thought
with a Western name.
Yeah, I saw an interview with Dan Salvato, and he said that while some of the characters had different iterations and different names at points, Monika was always Monika. He was like, there was just something about it. He's like, I knew I wanted to call her Monika, and he said, and I always knew that line, just Monika, was going to come up. There was just something about it that stuck. And I think it is a really good, and it has like,
it's kind of memed, didn't it?
Become a tweet, just Monika. So thank you, Monika, for giving us this experience and for keeping me up all night. I really appreciate it.
Really creepy right now if one of us still had her on our console and she just ended up saying, thank you, Chris. All right.
Oh. But guys, we'd love to hear from other people. If you've experienced Doki Doki Literature Club, or if just from listening to this chat, you've kind of experienced us spoiling it and you have thoughts on what you've just heard, like what the fuck, or that sounds kind of cool, or whatever you got. If you listen to this on YouTube, then jump down in the comments below. Let us know your thoughts on Doki Doki Literature Club. What were your theories about the game? Do you like the game? Would you call it a game? Is it scary or disturbing? Or what are all your thoughts on it? Or if you listen to us on audio platforms, you can also touch base on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at The Brothers Take. Again, to let us know your thoughts on Doki Doki Literature Club. That will finish our discussion for this week, but we'll be back to talk about Monika next week. Bye-bye.